On this episode of Infinity Sports, believe it or not, we're actually going to be talking baseball because that's what we do, as well as a little bit of movies because we also do that too. And that's coming right up right after our retro.
Jordan. Oh, a spectacular move by Michael Jordan. Drives one out to deep left field. This one's got a chance to get out of here. Gone! Three-run Jimmy Jack first big league home run for Mike Trout.
Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler.
And an 81-point game, 55 in the second half. Ladies and gentlemen, you have witnessed the second greatest scoring performance in NBA history.
What is going on, everybody? I'm Wayne G. It's been a long break, but as Eminem said, just like old times, the dynamic duo, Sully is joining me on the show. What's going on?
How we doing, everybody? It's been a while. We're happy to be back. You know what I mean? Here we go. Let's talk some sports. God, I've been itching.
Man, crazy itching to talk some sports. I know we talked about doing a new format. Obviously, if you're watching, you can tell that it's not really a new format. Or if you're listening, I should say. Excuse me. I had tacos before I started.
Jesus.
Yeah. All right. So I want to start off with baseball and kind of get your thoughts because I know you're the baseball guy, and I know that this whole thing started with my objection to doing a baseball segment. And so I do want to talk about some of the stories, starting with Shohei Ohtani, who against the Chicago White Sox, they waived the designated hitter, thing, and he hits for himself. And he not only does he throw a 101 mile per hour pitch, was the fastest recorded pitch of the season so far. He has the fastest, I think it was exit velocity with a 400-foot home run, and he hasn't pitched since then. He had 4 2/3 innings, only gave up I think 2 hits. He had a 1.69 ERA or something like that. I think he had a blister, so that's why it's delayed his next pitching start. But he's hitting 333, 3 home runs, 11 RBIs, 1,100 OPS, and there was talk. I'm curious to get your take on him being a potential MVP candidate.
I mean, as of right now, I don't think anybody's truly except now. Granted, we're 11 days into the season here. If he continues this trend, I don't see any way why not, or any reason why not. Now, it's a shame he only went 4 2/3 because he doesn't qualify for a win, in that spot. But if he can win, 10 games and have an ERA under 3. And then also hit 300 for, 25, 30 bombs and what he's doing at the plate right now. I think a guy would really have to – you'd have to have an amazing season to beat something like that out. It's just something we haven't seen in so long.
Well, that's what I was saying. He doesn't have to be a Cy Young winner, and he doesn't have to be the Triple Crown winner. He just has to be good at both. And I think of Charles Woodson winning the Heisman, right? Because he played wide receiver and he played defensive back. Obviously, all-pro defensive back, but he – I think caught 20 passes, which isn't anything special, but it's enough that you're like, well, here's a cornerback who didn't catch any passes, so why wouldn't we put him in?
You're going to have to be great in both. You can't just be good. You can't just be a 270 hitter who hits, 15 home runs and then, throws for and wins 10 games. He's going to have to be great at the plate also, but he's not going to have to statistically lead every category like somebody like Soto did last year or Jose Abreu did last year, in the shortened season, where they just, were first and second in every category. And that's essentially what you need out of an MVP. I don't think he'll have to be that. If he can be, 5, 7, 8, 2, 1, something like that in those ranges, and then also excel at pitching, like I said, the 10-3 record with a sub 3 ERA, and obviously the strikeouts that he has are great to view and are great for the media. So, he's got a shot. He lives in a league with Trout. He lives in a league with right now with Byron Buxton, who we're going to talk about, who obviously can't keep this pace up. But if he does, he's obviously. If there's an MVP frontrunner right now, it's Byron Buxton. So, he's in the tough league in the AL. He's got Jose Abreu too, but. I think he has a huge shot at winning the MVP.
Well, you brought up Mike Trout, and I wanted to mention, Mike Trout just doing Mike Trout things. He's hitting basically 400, 4 home runs, 8 RBIs, and a 1.4 OPS. So it's so funny that he would get overshadowed by somebody like an Ohtani because obviously he does both things, but all he's doing is having another amazing Mike Trout season.
I mean, that's what he does. Unfortunately, we've become numb to it. And it's such a shame to see because, if anybody else starts like this other than Mike Trout, we're all we're doing is talking about this player. So, but I mean, again, coming off the season he had last year, which, I think we can all understand COVID, the birth of his son, him missing time, him coming back and getting injured. I mean, he hit, I think it was 240 last year, which is absolutely unheard of for a guy like Mike Trout. But to see him come back, and I mean, I knew he was going to explode. Honestly, now granted, I'm a Trout fanboy, but I figured he was going to come back with a lot of anger this season and play extremely well. So, I mean, again, if I'm a betting man, I'm betting on Mike Trout to win the MVP. That's just smart money. But again, I mean, it depending on what Ohtani's going for, I mean, he's clearly got a shot. It's so wild that they're on the same team too.
Well, like I said, with Mike Trout, we've become so numb to it. Just the dominance. I mean, so much better than everybody else. So much better. And the fact that it reminds me so much of a Russell Westbrook. I know he's much better at his sport than Russell Westbrook is at his. But Russell Westbrook goes out, averages a triple-double, which hadn't been done for 60 years, whatever it was. And everyone's like, this is the most amazing thing we've ever seen. Then the next year he averages a triple-double, and everyone's like, eh.
Yeah. No, it's like, what are you doing? I mean, that's not that hard if you did it twice. But in reality, it's absolutely insane. No, I mean, I'm pretty sure he's the only player ever to start his career with every season in the top 5 for MVP or something like that. I don't think he's ever finished outside of the top 5 in MVP voting outside of last year, which I think we can all, for the most part, understand it's a throwout year. But I mean, you're talking to one of the bigger Trout fanboys on the planet here, so I'm not going to have a lot of bad things to say about the guy.
And speaking of people who are doing just what they do year in and year out, Jacob deGrom, 0-1 with a 0.64 ERA and a 0.7 whip, 21 Ks over 14 innings. And it's so funny because I saw all these memes come out, obviously, with how great he's playing. And one of them said that, he's got a 2.07 ERA since 2018. And in the games that he started, the Mets are 36-41.
The Mets are so bad. One of my best friends in the whole world, my dog EJ, is a Mets fan, and I sent him that meme because you posted it on our page or to somewhere that we follow on Facebook together, and I then sent it to him, and we talked for a while about just how bad it is. And I mean, I don't think anybody expected it this year either, with Lindor coming to town and that revamped team and offense and Jeff McNeil, who I'm a big fan of now, and I mean, I don't know. There just doesn't seem to be clicking over there, obviously. And I don't know what it is when DeGrom gets on the hill, that team just cannot score runs. Like, you cannot allow one run and lose a ball game like that. That's just that's insane to me.
But I mean, you can do it maybe once or twice a year, but to do it at the frequency that he does it is just
not even a year. Like once or twice a career, maybe where you throw 14 Ks, allow one, and lose the game. Like, and it's not like you're pitching against Clayton Kershaw or Garrett Cole on the other side either. Or you've got most of the time it's nobody that's pitching against him.
Well, my favorite meme that I've seen come out since then was that his Hall of Fame speech is going to be the shortest ever because he has nobody to thank.
He doesn't. I mean, he literally does. He's going to be like, thank God I can throw the ball extremely well. Bye. Beyond that, I wouldn't say much. Well,
and the sad thing is that when the Hall of Fame argument comes up, there's always going to be people who don't know how good he is, who only look at the totals, and they're going to say, oh, this guy was 112 and 107. Why should he be in the Hall of Fame? Well, because he should have won 300 games.
I cannot wait to have this discussion with kids when I'm 60, and they don't talk about DeGrom as one of the best right-handers of all time, and they point out, well, man, his record, like you said, man, that is going to be, man, that's weird to think about things like that.
Yeah.
I'm having an existential moment right now. Trying to explain to my kid how good Jacob deGrom was.
All right, so you mentioned him, Byron Buxton, who I'm a fan of, and I've been a fan of since I started kind of following trading cards way back when, casually, not intensely. But he was the number one prospect in baseball for 3 years in a row. This guy, when he gets to the league, he's going to dominate. And then he didn't really. And now this year he's hitting almost 500 with 5 home runs. I mean, he's literally getting a hit every other at bat.
Yes. He is absolutely crushing the ball. We talked, and he's already a platinum glover, so it's like his defense is elite. That's like what he's been known for. That's what's kept him in the league so far, because he is an elite defender, and nobody questions that. His hitting is never followed. I mean, I'm pretty sure he hasn't hit over 260 in a season yet, and I mean, except this year, like you said, he's hitting 481. His OPS is 1.734. I mean, that's just insane numbers. He is crushing the baseball. And I mean, it's great to see. I mean, you could see a little bit of this last year. He was trending extremely high upwards. He adjusted his swing and allowed for, a greater launch angle now, which a lot of these guys are doing. And, he's just making better contact. And I mean, the power that we always saw is there. And he's a legit, 30-30 guy. So, I mean, it's a lot of fun to watch, and I've died on his hill numerous years in fantasy baseball, and luckily I was smart enough to grab him again this year, and he's carrying that hill now. He's making me look like a genius. So it's not hard to do though.
I brought up only because I live in the Boston area. People are like, hey, what about the Red Sox? They started off 0-3 and they won 6 in a row or whatever it was. So my whole thing with the Red Sox is Christian Vasquez, who, again, I'm a fan of Christian Vasquez because I think he's one of the best defensive catchers in all of baseball, particularly at throwing guys out. I mean, I love when he snap throws to first base. I think he does that better than anybody. But every year he hits like 245 to 265, and right now he's hitting 382. His OPS is 1064. Like it's only 11 games into the season. But I thought, how good is Christian Vasquez if he becomes a 300 hitter?
I mean, he's extremely good. And I mean, at that point, it's flirting with JT Realmuto with the best catcher in baseball. Because, I mean, I agree. I mean, I'm a Rays fan. I see Christian Vasquez far too often, and more than I want to. And, I mean, his arm's a cannon. He reminds me of a Yadi Molina. He really does. Just a young Yadi. And, I mean, if he can hit like young Yachty, pooh! I mean, that'll end up. I mean, they right now he's on the same career path essentially. He hit, I think it was 280 last year in the shortened season. So I mean, even at that click, you're not a bad catcher if you can be premier defensive. So, but if he can hit over 300 and be a defensive catcher like he is, and things like that, I mean, that's scary good on a terrible team.
That's all the baseball that I really had. I don't know if you had any stories that had popped out to you.
I mean, just Acuna and Soto are crushing the ball, which is no surprise. It's fun to watch, though. I just love what baseball is at right now. It's a fun game. You can go to games. I've been to a couple now, and it's a blast. The Blue Jays are here in Dunedin because Toronto and Canada suck. So we get the luxury of having them here for a while, and it's been a lot of fun. So I'm just really, really excited that baseball's back.
Yeah, I always like going to baseball games. We have here in New Hampshire, we have the Fisher Cats, Manchester, which is the Toronto Blue Jays farm system. So okay. I got to see guys like Guerrero and those guys come up through the system in AA. But it's funny. I think one of the games we went to, I actually remember one of the first games was when the Nationals had Bryce Harper was in the minors. This is how long ago this was, right? But they were playing in New Hampshire. I'm like, I'm going to see Bryce Harper. And so we got tickets. And it was like the one game he sat out. He didn't play.
That's what's rough about minor leagues is they will sit out like games, and you can never really tell depending on like their travel schedule and things like that. It's tough.
On the basketball front, the big story I thought, well, there's a couple stories now, but the big story was the Lakers faced off against the Nets. This is the finals preview, right? Everyone's like, this is going to be the ultimate matchup. Can LeBron beat the Nets, who are loading up as a super team? Well, they beat them 126-101 without LeBron and without Anthony Davis. And granted, the Nets were without James Harden. But I'm looking at the two acquisitions that the Lakers made, which was Andre Drummond and Ben McLemore, guys they picked up off of the waiver wire. Drummond had 20 and 11 in 22 minutes, and McLemore had 17 points. Then swing over to the Nets. Blake and Aldridge combined for 14 points in 40 minutes. And I feel like that's consistent with what you're going to get out of those guys because they're over the hill. And I think that Drummond giving you 20 and 11, that's consistent with what you're going to get out of him. I really think the Lakers won the waiver wire thing, even though people say the Nets are turning into like this ultimate team.
I completely agree. I mean, I think Drummond and, I mean, granted it's McLemore you're not going to be thrilled about, but just Drummond himself is better than the Nets getting Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge, in my opinion. He's going to produce more, and he's still in his prime. I mean, he's a double-double machine. I mean, he's the definition of I'm pretty sure since he's entered the league, he like Wilt stats, essentially. He has more 2020 games than, like, the next 10 guys combined, essentially. Like, I'm dead serious. I mean, I wish we had Jesse on to talk about Andre because he's a huge fan. I'm not sure anymore, but now that he plays for the Lake Show. But I agree, and I mean, this is just I think a preview of things to come, truthfully, with LeBron and AD back on that team, that's going to be an incredibly difficult team to stop. You have a rebound specialist, a defensive rim stopper. You have shooting on the outsides. You have LeBron. I mean, that team's complete as it can be. Now, granted, I think James Harden's actually the most important cog on that Nets team. So not having him is, I think, like a huge loss in that game and just like not a real scope of what they can do. But I mean, nonetheless, I think if it played out, I think it'd be Lakers in 5.
I think so too, because like you said, James Harden is phenomenal, and he is the star of that Nets team, even with KD and Kyrie. But you're missing LeBron and Anthony Davis, and Anthony Davis is the best player on that Lakers team. And so you add those two guys with Drummond, and you bring back Harden. I just don't think that the Nets get to, like you said, to 6 games. I don't think it happens.
I don't think they have anybody that can realistically stop AD or Drummond on the inside either. LaMarcus Aldridge isn't D'ing up Anthony Davis, and I mean, granted, I think he has the ability to handle Andre Drummond because I don't think Andre Drummond's offensive game is any good. I don't think it's bad. I'm not trying to dog him or anything, but most of his game is just off rebounds and putbacks, truthfully. But then, you know, I mean, he's not like got a jump shot or something like that. So, but I mean, and Blake Griffin's never defending anyone in his life. So, I mean, truthfully, and then McLemore's going to be a sleeper, I think, you know, I remember from Sacramento. I haven't followed him much, but I mean, I know he can shoot the lights out the ball. So, I mean, you get space, and that's exactly what LeBron wants is shooters on the outside. So,
and if it wasn't easy enough for the Lakers already being the favorites to get to the West, Jamal Murray tears his ACL. He's out with Denver. Denver was the one real challenger, I felt like, to the Lakers, and that's a huge, huge blow to them.
Man, that's such a shame. I'm a huge Jamal Murray fan too. That sucks. That sucks.
I mean, Jokic is still an MVP candidate, and I think that, you know, maybe it gives him a chance for Michael Porter to develop a little bit more into a star that everyone thinks he's going to be. But yeah, I just think that kind of kills their chances, as good as they still are all around. I think that they're done.
Yeah, I mean, unless Michael Porter can turn into a 30-point scorer consistently in a game, which truthfully, he very well may be. I mean, we all thought he had the talent to prior back injury, you know, so I mean, if he can come into like a, you know, 30, maybe not a 30-point scorer, but you know what I mean, averaging, you know, 25, 26 a game consistently and being a lethal scorer, I mean, it's just going to be so tough to make up for that Jamal Murray production. I mean, the guy's incredible. So
the next topic is really something that Nick brought up because he was at the game. And Nick had said that, you know, was it Miles Bridges? Or was it
I don't know if it was Mikhail or Miles. I really don't.
It was Miles.
Mikhail. Was it Miles? Okay.
Yeah, Miles Bridges has the dunk on Clint Capella of the Hawks. And it's a great, great dunk. I mean, right in his face. We'll have the video up while we're talking about it. But it is a great dunk, but he said people are calling this the best dunk of the year. I still don't think it's better than Anthony Edwards' dunk.
I don't know. I don't know. It's tough. The cockback that he did was like, I mean, so far back. It just looks so good. And he hangs there. But, I mean, Anthony Edwards just ends up falling on top of the dude, which obviously is so disrespectful. And, like, I mean, not on purpose, but, like, you know what I mean? It's just so, like.
Well, I felt like the defender in the Anthony Edwards dunk was contesting the dunk, whereas Capella almost like turned and like kind of went into the dunk, like, oh, damn, like he's already elevated.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, I guess. I'd have to watch them like both really close, I guess. I might lean Anthony Edwards just because, I mean, I think it was one of those dunks where he got to his high point and then he got higher kind of thing. And I love watching that. It almost looks like guys are levitating. But man, I'd have to see him back to back. I don't know. I mean, that's a tough one.
But when you talk about like guys who go up and when it looks like they're about to dunk it, then they go up a little bit more.
Yeah.
I think of the Blake Griffin over Timothy Mozgov.
Oh, yeah.
Dunk.
Oh, God.
He just kept going up and up and up.
And then, see, but with Blake Griffin's too, isn't that the one he threw in?
I think he did, yeah. Because he had one over Perkins and he had one over Mozgov. But I think that the one over Mozgov, he got his fingertips maybe on the rim.
Yeah, I can't remember. And Anthony Edwards was a full clean dunk. Now, so was Mikal Bridges or Miles. I don't remember which one. Was a full clean dunk. They were both insane. I mean, just insane. Did you see Ja's lob? It wasn't on anybody, but did you see the lob he caught last night? I think it was. Oh, somebody throws a lob. He's coming on from the baseline. Somebody throws a lob, and he catches it back here. And then just, oh, God. It was so disgusting.
I like those ones where the ball's really out of reach, but they still
get it. And then they get it, and it was so dirty. I mean, Josh, a monster.
You know who the king of that was, to me anyways, in my generation, was Sean Kemp.
He was. Larry
Peyton
Johnson, too.
Did LJ have those kind of hops?
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah.
Right. I remember him dunking a lot, but like Kemp, I remember.
I don't think it was Kemp's skills, but I mean, I just remember LJ throwing some serious dunks.
Yeah. Grandmama.
Him and Gary Payton, that was such a fun squad.
Yeah, I felt like Gary Payton would throw the ball into the rafters. Like, what did you just do with it? And then out of nowhere, Sean Kemp would come and throw it down. I always wanted to play with a guy who could dunk like that. I'd have 20 assists a game.
Right? And then yet Sean Bradley just somehow makes it on the Space Jam.
Paralyzed now.
Is he?
Yeah.
From what?
He was riding his bicycle. Somebody hit him with a car.
Shut up.
Yeah. So sad story.
How do you hit a 7'4" guy?
7'6", I know.
How do you hit a 7'6" guy?
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. So anyways, he was in the hospital for a little bit, and they said that just it's a severed, spinal thing, and he's paralyzed. I don't know if it's from the neck or if it's from the chest or the waist. I don't know, but not going to walk anymore.
Ooh. Could you deal with that?
What's that?
Could you deal with that?
If it was my waist down, I could. If it was my neck down, I don't think I could. Like having people feed you and like I don't know.
Even in waist down, I mean, I guess
waist down, you can use your arms.
Right?
I'd be jacked.
I would be jacked. I'd 100% be in the Paralympics.
Yeah, that was that murder ball that they play.
Yeah,
it's like a rugby.
It's like rugby with wheelchairs and basketball, kind of. Yeah,
yeah.
I'd be all over that.
All right, on to our topic that we're the best at here, which I feel anyways we're the best. When I say we're the best, I don't mean like this is our best topic, which it is. I mean we are the best.
Best.
Like, get out of here, Skip Bayless. Get out of here, whoever. We're the best at talking football. Started off, Julian Edelman calls it quits. The Patriots had, I think so. I think the Patriots had announced that his contract was being terminated for a failed physical, which is just a salary cap move.
Yeah.
And then he announced his retirement. And I love it. He's a lifetime Patriot. The big question comes up, is he a Hall of Famer?
No, not even close.
Not even close?
Not even close. If Hines Ward can't get into the Hall, then Julian Edelman doesn't deserve to be in the Hall. Hines Ward has every bit of postseason resume that Julian Edelman has, minus the second in yards or whatever. What? He's got a Super Bowl MVP. Hines Ward has one.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So, and that's what I mean. He has every bit of the resume minus the 2,400 yards, but he's still like fifth or sixth in yards. So it's not like a slouch or anything like that, but he crushes him in yards, completions, everything, like everything. So, and I mean, he can't even get into the Hall. So I just can't see any way Julian gets in.
I felt like he's a fringe. Like I said, I don't want to say not even close. I feel like he's fringe because of his postseason success, because of the 3 Super Bowls and the one-time Super Bowl MVP. Because we talked about it before. Eli Manning, I think, gets in because he beat the Patriots twice. I think that his regular
Super Bowls gets you in the Hall of Fame.
But his regular season stats don't get him in. It's those 2 Super Bowls. And I think Julian Edelman won 3 of them as a wide receiver. And I know he had Tom Brady on the team as the Patriots. It isn't like he won them, even though he was a Super Bowl MVP. And even though that Falcons Super Bowl, right, that catch was just ridiculous.
I mean, it was.
I don't know. I think that he will be in the conversation. I don't think he gets in either, but I think he creeps into the conversation. People will talk about it. I
mean, I don't think he has any Pro Bowls.
Because he had a couple 100-catch seasons.
I know, but I don't again, outside of catch, I really don't think he had any Pro Bowl. He doesn't. I don't think he has a Pro Bowl.
All right. Well, then maybe that's
no Pro Bowls. I mean, it's like, it's a little rough. I outside of the Super Bowl MVP and the yardage in the postseason, I mean, his career is just a little rough for me. I don't really see it as like a Hall of Fame career. He had 1 year in 2013 where he I guess 2 years where he balled out, where he had 100 catches and 1,000 yards. Now, granted, I guess 98 and 1,000 is enough. But, I mean, it's just not enough over a 12-year career. If he'd have done it for 16 or 17, maybe, because then he'd get up there in yards. But he's got under 7,000 career yards, bro.
Yeah, catches-wise, he's 75th all-time with 620. But he is a short catch receiver, so the 6,822 yards is 156 all-time. 36 touchdowns doesn't really do anything. It's really just the
the 36 touchdowns. Hines Ward's got 85. Hines Ward's got 12,000 career yards. Hines Ward has 1,000 career catches and a Super Bowl MVP and can't get into the hall. Can't even sniff it. So I just don't see any way Julian Edelman does. I mean,
yeah, I agree. Like I said, I don't think he gets in. He's obviously going to be a first ballot unanimous Patriots Hall of Famer.
Oh God, he'll be in the Ring of Hall of Fame in the Patriots. Yeah, for sure.
Now, a topic we didn't really cover, or we haven't covered because we've been on our sabbatical, was Deshaun Watson. We're now up to 22 Jane Does, basically, who have come out and said that he did some lewd things. They're all represented by the same lawyer, this Tony Busby, who I guess is the neighbor to the Houston Texans owner.
Yep.
And there's a lot of, it seems like there's a lot of stuff that just doesn't feel right with this. Right down to the fact that, and I don't know Deshaun Watson personally, I know neither of us do, but everything from the time that he's been drafted to now he's been a huge character guy. This is totally out of the blue. And the fact that it was this one lawyer representing all of them, he's not going to name any of them. There's no criminal charges. It just seems like, is this something the Texans did on purpose, or is it just bad timing? I don't know.
I'm pretty sure 2 women have come forward and filed criminal charges. I could be wrong. But I'm pretty sure that 2 have come forward, and since then his attorneys have released statements and about other girls that he has had good contact with, and they have come out and spoken in light of and for him and things like that. I don't know. It's hard to place judgment. Why do you need 50 massage therapists? That's weird. That's weird to me. Now, granted, do I think these women knew what was going on? Now, granted, he flew these women out, got a massage from them, and we're all going to assume he more than likely had sex or some kind of sexual encounter with them. Most of them he flew out to him. A lot were local as well, but a lot, flew out to him, and he met them on Instagram. I am under the hat that I think these women knew what they were doing. I think they knew that a football player is flying me out to get a massage and have sexual encounters with me. Even if that wasn't explicitly said, I think you are extremely naive and frankly stupid to believe that wasn't the intention. Now, granted, do I think any of these women deserve to be sexually assaulted? If they were, of course not. And that's miserable. And if he did any kind of sexual assaults, I hope he's punished to the full extent of the law. However, if these women were paid and knew what they were doing, and now they're just coming out and trying for a money grab, which it does seem like is happening, then I feel like criminal charges should be allowed to be filed against them. Now, also, they aren't filing any criminal charges. They're just filing civil because the burden of proof in civil lawsuits is zero to none, essentially. It's right. Just who's got the saddest story, and a jury's going to believe it. And 90% of these lawsuits are going to come out that he's just going to have to settle because he'll lose them. So it's going to be a defamation of his character when he has to settle these suits, because it's going to look like an admission of guilt, when in fact it's not. It's just easier to settle and then take less money than it is for him to go to a jury trial and probably get hit with a huge amount. I don't know. I want to see more facts. I want to see more. Busby came out and was quoted saying, we've gone to the police and things like that. And then the next day, the police chief came out and said, I've never heard from this guy. I don't know what he's talking about.
He's totally posturing. And not only that, but the thing that Busby came out, I want to say when the first woman, before the first one was filed, according to Deshaun Watson anyways, is that Busby approached him and said, I have a client who's going to press a civil charge against you. If you give me $100,000 for her right now, then it all goes away. And the next thing we know, he's got 22 clients that are all saying the same thing.
And 22 is a lot. Like, I'd have to look up some like FBI statistics and things like, but a person that sexually assaults 22 women, like, bro, that would be like one of the biggest cases of all time. Like, you know, like well, yeah, exactly. And that's, and things like that would be like so insane. And like, again, I hate to sound insensitive here. It's incredibly difficult for me to believe that these women walked into this situation not knowing exactly what was going to happen.
Well, and I want to go as far as even to say that Tony, but you know how we see those commercials on TV, and it's like, if you're suffering from mesothelioma, contact us. I feel like Tony Busby was like, all right, if you have been contacted on Instagram by Deshaun Watson, give me a call and join this class action lawsuit.
Yeah, I'll get you money, even if nothing happened, even if it was 100% consensual, as long as you don't have it like explicitly in your messages that says like, oh, thanks for the great time, I'm glad we did it. Like, you know, you're going to get money essentially, because there's no way to prove that it wasn't. Hey, sorry. There's no way to prove that it was. Sorry, my dog's acting up. So, and it's a shame, you know, and it's, I mean, it's such a shame that we have to kind of like almost assume that it's done out of bad intentions, because, you know, that should never be the case. These women should be believed when they come out and they're spoken, and they take it's so hard to gain the courage to speak out against your abuser. And this just completely takes away from like a lot of like the hard work that a lot of these women have put into like making this like such a forefront issue. Because I don't know if you're familiar with a lot of statistics, but I'd say I'm not either, but I'd say more than 50% of sexual assaults don't get reported. And it's because of probably claims like this. These women are going to come out and, you know, put a kind of a bad name to it.
No, I agree. And I think that if it's true that they didn't do it, and again, it's not empowering to women at all. It's actually disempowering them by doing this. Because like you said, the next person's not going to report it because, like, well, this person got dragged through the mud. And I mean, that's always been the case anyways, even when it was true that the person gets dragged through the mud until it's proven, you know?
Yeah, of course.
To a less somber note, let's get back into some actual football stuff. And the 49ers make a huge trade before the draft. Like, we talked about this before. Like, the teams don't trade before the draft because you want to see who's going to fall to where before you actually trade that pick. But
well, here it's a little different. We'll get into it.
Yeah, so the 49ers, basically, they trade number 12, a 2022 first and a third, a 2023 first, and they get the third overall pick in the draft. And I'll have you go from there. So they're moving up. They say Jimmy Garoppolo is our guy, but I don't think you give up all of that to move up in this draft if you're not taking a quarterback.
No way you do. I mean, it would be such a colossal failure if they moved up to take like Penei Sewell or like Kyle Pitts. Now, don't get me wrong. I think people could get behind Kyle Pitts because I truly believe he's a generational talent that's going to change a lot, going to completely change the offense that any team goes to. But they got George Kittle. Were they really going to move up, take another tight end? Like, that doesn't make sense. So now this draft is different with the pre-draft process, I think, because everyone knows who's going one. Everybody on the planet knows who's going one. And at this point in time, everybody on the planet knows who's going two.
We'll get to that.
Which is, what's that?
We'll get to that.
We will. But Zach Wilson is I think, he's minus 800 at this point to be the second overall pick, which is astronomical odds for picks. Not only that, the Jets have come out and stated they love him. They traded away Sam Darnold, which is what we'll get to. They're locked into Zach Wilson, in my opinion. Not only that, even if they're not locked into Zach Wilson and they shock everybody and take Justin Fields, well, then who's ever at number 3 gets Zach Wilson dropped right into their lap. So I think that's what San Francisco's thinking. So I don't hate the trade up early. I really don't. Now they gave up a ton, so it's one of those things that it better work out. Now they're going to get something back for Jimmy, but I don't know what. I think they get more than Sam Darnold, but so he got a second next year and a fourth next year, I think it was. But I think they'll get somebody will give up a late first, I assume. If it's not this year, next year. Maybe.
My question for you is, I've been reading all these reports since the 49ers traded up to 3. These reports didn't come out prior to this, but once the 49ers moved up to number 3, I saw everywhere that they're locked in on Mac Jones. And I'm like, what are the shit? They traded 3 first-round picks to move up and get Mac Jones, who I would think would be there at 8, 9. I don't know.
Yeah, that's why I can't believe that. Like, truthfully, I can't get behind that. Now, I understand where there's smoke, there's fire, and right now there's even almost fire. I mean, his odds went to, I believe he's minus 200 now, or plus 200, to be the third overall pick, which is absolutely insane. Like, I don't see it happening. Now, I understand he's kind of the mold of the quarterback that's been in the Shanahan offense and things like that, but so is Justin Fields. Justin Fields is everything that Kyle Shanahan looks for in a quarterback, but he's also mobile and he's also more accurate. Now, the only thing that I can't tell, that nobody can tell, is if Mac Jones went into the meetings here and just wowed the San Francisco staff and all these other staffs on the whiteboard, knowing plays and knowing offenses and really just being and having it between the ears. But, I mean, if it wasn't unanimous across the board, if every person didn't say they were going Mac Jones, I might believe it. But everyone is saying they're going Mac Jones. So I think they go Justin Fields.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I mean, I would think it would be Fields, but I had this conversation with somebody because they're like, how is Mac Jones a first-round pick? I can't remember. Somebody said that. And my contention with him is he doesn't have the elite arm talent of some of the other quarterbacks. But what other negative do you have with him? I mean, the only other negative that people bring up is like, well, he's been surrounded by talent. Well, so was Joe Burrow when he won the national championship. I mean, so is Justin Fields at Ohio State. You're surrounded by talent. That's not a knock. I mean, what did he do with that talent? Well, he completed 80% of his passes, which is insane. I really don't think that he has a weakness in his game outside of the fact that he doesn't have a big arm. I mean, everything else is just great.
It is. I still think Justin Fields is more accurate. Now, that's not to say Mac Jones isn't insanely accurate. I just think Justin Fields is more accurate. Now, here's the thing: is Mac Jones comps a lot to me to, let's say, give me a second. He's never going to, I think, win you a game. Mac Jones will not be the reason you win football games. He's never going to be a guy that takes over and completely wins a ball game. I don't think he'll lose you ball games either. He's better than Ryan Fitzpatrick because he's going to be a much more efficient player. So I'm not going to call him Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's Derek Carr. There you go. He's Derek Carr, which I know you love, but the Raiders aren't winning a Super Bowl anytime soon with Derek Carr. They're just not. That's why a team like I don't think a team like San Francisco, or I do think a team like San Francisco would benefit from a Mac Jones, but also a team like New England, I think, would benefit greatly from a Mac Jones. Surround him with a ton of talent, and essentially just let him not lose you football games. However, his ceiling is much, much lower. His floor is lower, but his ceiling is much, much lower.
And that's what I said to a friend of mine today. He said that he would love Mac Jones on the Patriots, Yeah. And I said, well,
hint to my next mock draft.
I was like, but if he has to go, if they have to trade up, I don't like the idea of them trading up and giving up a lot to get him.
They're going to have to move up.
Right. Which, especially, I said, to my friend, I said, I think you can get Kellen Mond in the second round, maybe the early third, although he's rising up the boards. But I think you get him in the second round. He's got insane arm talent, right? And I know that the question with him has been his decision making, but last year he had 18 touchdowns and 3 picks under Jimbo Fisher, who I think helped him out a lot. So he's showing progression. I said the only thing with Mac Jones, and I said to him, as I said that Mac Jones, he goes, would you rather have Mond or Jones? I said, well, I mean, if I can get Jones at 15, then yeah. But if I can get Kellen Mond in the second round versus trading up to 6 to get Mac Jones, I'd rather get Kellen Mond. I said, his floor is lower, like you were saying. There's a bigger chance that he busts, but his ceiling, I think, is a lot higher than Mac Jones.
Agreed, but that's Mac Jones' knock. I think a lot of these guys' ceilings is a lot lower than, or a lot higher than Mac Jones. I don't know. I don't think you got to move up that far, truthfully. I don't think Mac Jones is going to go where people think he's going to go, truthfully. I've got Fields going 3. I don't think Atlanta's able to get out of 4 because nobody wants to move up to 4. You're going to have a hard time convincing a team to give up a future first to move up to 4 when they could just move to 6 or 7. Maybe even 8 with the trade with Carolina now. Maybe they're out of the quarterback game. We'll see come draft time, but maybe even 8. I think Denver's and New England are realistically the last 2 teams that want a quarterback, and there's 2 of them. So unless somebody shocks and gives up the world, I don't think anybody's moving up to 4. And then 5 and 6, I don't think anybody's happening. So 7, realistically, I think you can move up to. And then I don't think 7 costs a lot. And then even if Denver moves up to 7, well, then you only got to move up to 10, 11, or 12. So then it's really cheap to get Mac, I think. So I think that's how kind of the draft plays out. We'll see, obviously, but I mean, I'm excited. It's getting down to that time. You know, rumors are flying. You know, shit's getting heavy, and I'm super excited.
Now, the other end of that spectrum is the Dolphins. So the Dolphins trade out of 3 back to 12, then trade with Philadelphia to get back at 6. And the question becomes, obviously the Dolphins, whoever it is that they want, that they have their heart set on, they feel will go later than 3, but they weren't going to get them at 12. And I'm curious, your speculation, because the names that have been thrown out there for the Dolphins is, Jamar Chase, Kyle Pitts, and Penei Sewell. And
yeah, those are them.
Right. And I mean, who do you think it is that they have their heart set on, that they're like, I have to get back into the top 10 to get this guy?
I think it's going to be Jamar Chase. It may be Devontae Smith. You know, you don't know how their board's going to play out. So I would add him into that list. Now they gave up a lot to move up. Honestly, that future first was actually I think a ton, but they have the capital to do it. And if they believe now, I think their number one prize would be Kyle Pitts. I think he's everybody's number one prize, but I don't know if he gets past Atlanta. I mean, if Atlanta's stuck at 4, I don't see any reason they pass on Kyle Pitts at that time. I would take him there. So then at that point, I think they're going to be with Chase or Sewell, if you're Miami, or depending on who Cincinnati takes at 5 then. And I think they're going to take Chase. And then truthfully, I think that's worst case scenario for Miami, is them ending up with Penei Sewell. But again, that's not a bad worst case. You know, they just took a first round tackle in Austin Jackson last year. They took Robert Hunt last year as well. Robert Hunt actually outperformed Austin Jackson, but Austin Jackson's still, I think, 21 or 22 years old. Getting an offensive line is never a bad thing, but then even again, I'd throw Devontae Smith into that mix, and I think they'd be happy to get him at 6 too. So
I think Devontae Smith is the guy just because he played with Tua, and I think that it makes sense to pair them. I think they know that Jamar Chase is probably not going to get to them at 6, depending on what happens, but probably not.
If Cincinnati goes Penei Sewell, then obviously they get Jamar Chase to fall right into their lap. So.
Right. The Eagles, on the other hand, the Eagles trade out of 6. They move back to 12, but now they have potentially 3 first-round picks next year, which is great for them. But I started thinking, like, all right, who are they going to take at 12? You know, I mean, maybe they don't care, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think they care at that point. Truthfully, they'll probably try to move back. Now, at that range, you know, the defensive ends start coming into play. Kwity Paye, Jason Owe, you know, Jaleel Collins, whichever one you have at that spot at number 1. Most have Kwity Paye there. If Jalen Waddle's there at 12, I'd snatch him up in a heartbeat. Micah Parsons, I think I'd snatch up in a heartbeat if I was Philadelphia. So I think they have quite a few options at 12. I think more for them it was, look, we only think 3 quarterbacks are actually viable quarterbacks in this draft. We're not going to get them at 6. We don't have the ability to move up, or we don't want to move up. So let's move back, acquire more capital. Honestly, I think they're one of the teams in play to move back from 12 if somebody wants to move up, if Mac Jones still floating there or somebody like that. So I think that's most likely for Philadelphia.
And then we touched on it earlier. The Sam Darnold goes to the Carolina Panthers for basically a 2nd, a 4th, and a 6th. And it
Swap
seems like
6.
Swap 6. All right. But it seems like, the rumor is they're bringing him in to compete with Teddy Bridgewater. Give him some competition, push him. I haven't read anything that they're going to move Teddy. I haven't read anything like that. It's all
they can't right now.
It's just going to be a competition between two of them, which as much as I love Darnold, and I think he throws a much better deep ball than Teddy does, I just think Teddy's so accurate. I don't think you can pass on him as your starter.
I mean, again, we don't know what's going to happen in camp. I think this offense with Joe Brady would favor a guy like Sam Darnold. Joe Brady, obviously we know from LSU and things like that, wants to push the ball down the field. And that's not something Teddy Bridgewater offers. And I think that's why they were so gung-ho on getting another quarterback, is because Teddy Bridgewater is the anti-Joe Brady. Like it's everything Joe Brady doesn't want to do is just dink and dunk down the field. So I think Sam Darnold has the upper hand in that case. And also he's never had talent like he's had in Carolina right now. So, I mean, now granted, nobody's calling Carolina's talent world beaters or anything like that, but I mean, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, and things like that, you know, Sam Darnold's going to have that history with Robbie Anderson where he actually had a pretty decent year. So I think that's going to play out well. And then Christian McCaffrey is going to be huge for Sam Darnold. And just in general, I think that team's on a much better trajectory than the Jets are. So.
Well, we talked about the Jets. This all but sealed the fact that Zach Wilson's going to be the second overall pick to the New York Jets. Because I know there was some talk. Could it be Penei Sewell? Could it be they trade back out of the spot? But moving Darnold, it's definitely they're moving on. They're taking the quarterback. It looks like it's going to be Zach Wilson. Our third person in usually said that if he was Zach Wilson, he would pull a John Elway or an Eli Manning and try to force his way out of New York. I don't like that at all. And I think New York's actually not that bad a situation. They're a team, like we brought it up before, like whether it's Cleveland or whoever. New York is the type of team, because of the market they're in, they can go from 2-14 to 10-6 in a year or two.
Anybody can. I mean, I hate that. I'd force my way out of it unless it's like, and I don't mean unless, but like, you know, very specific situations where like the team has no future, essentially, like Houston. I'd force my way out of Houston in a second, like Deshaun's doing or trying to do, or even if I was to get drafted by Houston, I'd try to get out of there. But just because they have no immediate future that they can, you know, try to recoup anything with, it'd be tough to build a team at that point. The Jets have plenty, and they've got a lot of talent, and it just needs to be put together. And not only that, Zach Wilson's the type of talent that, like, I mean, is that deal. Like, he can win you football games by himself. So I think that's, like, you know, that's a huge, huge thing to have.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not 100% sold on him. I mean, I like Justin Fields better personally, but I mean, I understand all the reports coming out about, you know, how well he throws the football, and I don't know. I have a hard time with it at 2. I don't know.
Man, he's good. He's really good. His ability to throw off multiple platforms and his arm strength and arm talent is scary good. He's not as accurate as Justin Fields. He's not. But I mean, he throws a much better deep ball, which is scary because Justin Fields throws one of the prettiest deep balls I've ever seen. But I don't know. I think Zach Wilson's ceiling is much higher.
Now, here's a topic. I'm going to spring a topic on you that we didn't discuss in the rundown, but it's something that's very close to your heart, so I'm sure you're going to love talking about it. I cannot stand all you Facebook people, if you're listening, saying that you're convinced Trevor Lawrence is going to be a bust. I don't think he's given any indication over the last 3 years that that's the case. I think he looks as legit as you can possibly look. And even I, who questioned him a couple years, I wrote that piece, Overhyped. You know, I've come around and I'm like, this guy is absolutely, not only is he going to be an NFL football player that's not going to be a bust, he's going to be an all-pro. You know, he is legitimately, he does everything good. What does he do bad? I've boiled it down to this. Anybody who is saying that Trevor Lawrence is going to be a bust is only saying it, hoping that they'll be right someday so they can say, I said it, I was the guy that said it, even though there's no evidence to actually say it.
100%. That's literally the only reason. And I mean, I at this point, I mean, it'd be tough to not consider him a bust unless he wins 3 Super Bowls and 5 MVPs. You know what I mean? With the way people are talking about him. But people have to remember, like I don't consider Andrew Luck a bust whatsoever. Yep. I know he didn't win any Super Bowls. The guy stepped in and brought a 3-13 ball club to the playoffs for multiple years and was one of the best quarterbacks in the league. That's a successful career, in my opinion. Now, it ended short, and he never got to see everything that we wanted to see, and he was mauled and crippled by one of the worst GMs in the history of sports. But he wasn't a bust. So, I mean, there's no reason to believe Trevor Lawrence will do anything but succeed. He doesn't have an ego. He's got it between the ears. He's smart. He can, you know, run an offense essentially on the field by himself. He did it at Clemson. I don't see it, and I've been doing this a long time. Now, everybody has some bust potential, but if you're going to give it a percentage, man, I'd say it's 1% that the guy busts, like legit.
And that's what I've been saying is that, yes, there is no guarantees in a draft. You're taking a college kid. You don't know how he's going to pan out once he gets that pressure to perform, not only with the money and everything like that. But I said in the NBA, which is really my forte, as I said, you have generational guys, and I always bring up Shaquille O'Neal, Tim Duncan, LeBron James, who were the number one pick 2 years before they were actually in the draft.
Yeah.
And yes, when you were in 1993 or 1992, whatever it is, Orlando gets the number one pick. You could say, well, I think Shaquille O'Neal is going to be a bust. Well, like there's a 1% chance, but
more than likely he's not. And I mean, that's a great, analogy, honestly, because he is. I mean, he's as safe as a prospect as you're going to get. He just doesn't do things wrong. He just doesn't. He has arm talent. He has accuracy. He has decision making. He can read. He's done it for multiple. You've seen him do everything too. And not just that, he's been the most hyped player his entire playing career. He was the number one rated prospect in high school. He was the number one rated quarterback in high school. He won the Elite 11 camp, or was in the finals for the Elite 11. I think he lost to Justin Fields. I can't remember. They were in the same class. Comes out and wins a national championship. His freshman year, he leads them to a national championship against Alabama. Comes back and wins a national championship. Like, the guy has just done it at every level with the pressure to do it at every level. I don't think people understand how hard that is for a 19-year-old kid to do, and he's done nothing but succeed. So why think he's not going to now?
And it seems to have it between the years too. Like, he doesn't get in trouble off the field. He
skipped the draft day, event that it's not mandatory, by the way. It's a voluntary draft day event, and went and got married this weekend.
Yeah. So now he has even more reason to be head straight. Focused.
Exactly. Like, you know what I mean? I'm going to go to so many Jacksonville games. I'm going to live in Duval, baby.
The last topic we really wanted to talk about, which this would be much to the chagrin of the host we keep referencing because he hated us talking about movies or music, but it is a sports related because Space Jam 2, the trailer came out. We've all been wondering what it was going to look like. We'd seen some screenshots of LeBron wearing the Toon Squad, jersey, the blue one, and everyone's like, "Is this going to be just he has to fight the Monstars again, and they're going to steal some talent?" It doesn't look like that at all. Actually, it looks like it's going to be its own story, which I like. I like the trailer. I mean, I know that Ryan Coogler is producing this. He did Black Panther. He did Creed. So obviously he's tied to it. LeBron made sure he was tied to it. The Goon Squad is who they're going to be playing against, which is Klay Thompson, AD, Dame, Diana Taurasi. I like a little inclusion of the women. Nikki Ogunkwe. I don't know how to say it.
Nikki Ogunkwe.
Yeah. So the two of them are. Oh, is she related to Yannick? No. Anyways, but I like that. Don Cheadle's going to be the villain. It's not going to be Swackhammer or whatever it is. It's just a trailer, so it doesn't tell you what his motivation is. Like, why is he doing this?
That's what I don't like, and that's what. So I don't in the story. I didn't like that there seemed to be like a reason. Like in the original one, there was a reason. They needed help to, save from the blah blah blah. Even if it was a made up reason, they're going to some planet on whatever to be sideshow attractions. It gave you a reason, and I haven't seen. Now, granted, his son gets kidnapped, but why? And right. I'm hoping, obviously, they'll let us know. I'm assuming, and things like that. Now, LeBron James is LeBron James, so he's the most well-known athlete, and blah blah. Maybe he wants Don Cheadle, runs this, AI. He's the king of the AI verse or whatever. Maybe he wants LeBron in his AI verse, but even still, that's a stupid reason, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's got to be something driving it, like to kidnap his son so that he will play, and then to send him because he's send him to the rejects, and he sends him to Looney Tunes. So he could have sent him to any of these other planets. So this is a little bit different because obviously in the original Space Jam, Michael Jordan was recruited by the Tunes to play with them. In this case, Don Cheadle's just saying, "Hey, you have to play for your son's life or whatever," and sending him to.
Now, the one part of the trailer I did think was funny was when Daffy Duck goes, "Here, shoot the ball," and then he pulls out the 6 guns and starts shooting the ball. That was the part I laughed. But I mean, I'll watch it. I don't know if I'll because I loved the first one so much. So much. It's
cheesy and campy, but it's supposed to be. Yeah.
I don't think I loved seeing LeBron as a cartoon either because MJ was never a cartoon in his version.
He wasn't.
But again, it's not that version. So, maybe I'm expecting it to be an homage to one and it's not.
So I like the idea of LeBron as a cartoon because they can do more with him. They can flatten him. They can do all kinds of. They could do that with MJ too.
They did that with MJ in the other one.
Well, they flattened Newman, but they didn't flatten it. MJ, I think he stretched his arm out at the end. So I don't know. I think it gives them a couple more opportunities there. The two things that made me laugh in the trailer. The first was when LeBron's a cartoon and he's got a whiteboard and he's like, all right, so we need to get King Kong, the Iron Giant.
Yeah.
He's building a super team.
Yeah, Gandalf was on there. He's building a super team. That was pretty funny too. That was hilarious.
And I know that LeBron can laugh at himself, and I'm sure they will make some sort of a super team reference, when he's doing that. Like, hey, we'll play with you.
Yeah.
And then the other part that made me laugh was Lola tossing the alley-oop and then doing the Dwayne Wade.
The Dwayne Wade thing. Yeah, that was cool. I did like that. I've seen the still shot of that too, and that's really cool. I mean, that'll be a cool little reference. So yeah, I mean, I don't think it was bad by any means. Like I said, I'd like to see or know like the motive behind it. But other than that, I'm going to watch it. That's for sure.
Yeah, of course. It's a sports movie. I got to watch it. Yeah. I don't watch every sports movie, but I'll definitely watch this one.
Most of them I watch. Yeah.
So that's pretty much our show that wraps things up. And obviously we appreciate everybody listening. A treat for you guys is that the people on YouTube who watch the clips are not going to see this stuff that I'm saying to you. So thank you so much for listening and tuning in and downloading the episodes. I know I certainly appreciate it. I know Sully does as well.
Yeah.
Visit us on YouTube. Watch some of the clips. If you liked a particular clip while you're listening, check it out on YouTube. That clip will be isolated on its own. You can follow us on social media. On Facebook, we're at Infinity Sports Podcast, at Infinity Sports Podcast on Instagram, and at Sports Infinity 5 on Twitter. We'll interact with you. Give us some ideas for the show. We're always looking for those.
True statement.
But that said, I don't know. It's been a long time. Do you want to throw it to Kenny? You want me to throw it to Kenny?
You can throw it. Let's do something exciting.
Okay. Hey, Kenny, where are we at with the show?
You